No idea why Angel Cruz had just shot him in the ass, but I felt something, and I wanted to know what it was, just to be sure, just to know.
Welcome to Radical Listening, where we talk to artists about their current projects in the Portland area. I'm your host, Phil Johnson, and you can find me on my social media at Phil Johnson Live.
And I'm the co-host, Clifton Holtznagel. You can find me on Instagram at Holtzbagel, HOLZBAGEL.
The episode today is about Jesus Hopped the A Train by Stephen Adly Girgis. And this is a play that's happening currently at Coho. It's being co-produced by Beirut Wedding, and it stars our two guests. And we're really looking forward to this conversation. These guys are just phenomenal actors, but also just great guys. I'm trying to think of my first time running into Bobby.
When have you not seen Bobby?
No,
Is the real
was
question.
the first time.
Well, what I mean is, like, he's always working very hard.
That's true.
And many different facets through his through Beirut Wedding and Oregon Arts Watch and
ART and everywhere. Bobby is
a man about town.
And our other guest is Anthony Lamb. And Anthony Lamb, I remember working on for the first time Elliot, and I remember just having a ball, and I remember him just nailing it and just being awesome. And I think he ended up continuing the trilogy. But these guys flew in all the way from their main stage production, which just so happens to be where we are right now.
Coho Theater.
Let's do some introductions here. We've got Bobby Bermea, who is the co-artistic director of Beirut Wedding and one of the stars of the production that we're talking about today. And we also have Anthony Lamb, who is the other star of the production. These are hardworking actors. You've seen them around town. You've seen them on main stages all over Portland. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I just want to start saying that really loved the play. Saw it on that preview night.
Yeah,
it was,
seriously.
it was
Thank you
quite
so much
good.
for coming. Thank you so much for coming.
Very powerful.
Yeah. You know, you've been up for, about a week or?
Yeah, we started last week, and we had a couple of previews Wednesday, Thursday, and then we opening Friday,
Right.
and then Saturday, and then we had Easter Sunday.
So
do
you feel like you found your groove?
I feel like we're still exploring, and we're finding and discovering as we keep doing this play. I mean, this play it's a beast, you know.
Yeah.
From start to finish, there's no moment, or at least for me, that I feel that you can let your guard down. And I always find myself exhausted at the end, but at the same time exhilarated.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a phenomenal experience to share this with Bobby. We've worked with each other before, and I mean, Girgis, his words, they're like knives, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no moment that just leaves you feeling comfortable. You're on the edge of your seat, or at least, I mean, for me, I'm on the edge of the bucket. Whatever wherever I am, and it's tense, but it's so raw and real.
And I definitely feel with our crew of people, we are more in a groove than we would normally be after 1 week. Performances.
Yeah.
But it's always, going to be evolving and growing, and we're going to be discovering things that we don't even know that exist yet. Which is, it's like it literally happens every night in every scene, where you're either doing something that you hadn't done before, or your fellow actor is coming at you with something different, than what they were doing, and it's always organic. It helps, like always, to have a great writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's giving you such great words to work with, which makes it just super exciting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, has anything like that happened where, for the non-actors out there, where something has happened that felt so different on stage and you just kept rolling with it?
Well, I'll tell you an experience that stood out to me. There was a moment where me and Bobby are in the cages, and he's about to tell me about killing, his murderers or whatnot, and somebody's cell phone went off. And he did this amazing thing where he did not continue telling the story, and he waited. and I felt like it was a minute or so
Oh
of
my
waiting.
gosh.
But for me, I kept watching him,
Yeah.
and all I kept thinking was he was just replaying this incident in his mind. And so when he finally spoke, when the cell phone was shut off, it was so clear and vivid and powerful. I mean, his words were so grounded, and I mean, they resonated with me. It made my hairs on my arms stand up.
Oh,
And
wow.
It was very powerful.
Wait, what part of the play was that? I'm just curious.
When I'm talking about Miami Beach and that I killed the little Ecuadorian kid.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah. Oh, that's a
yeah.
good one. That's a
Well,
good part.
it wasn't like the cell phone went off like right before that line.
right before he said, "I'll tell you why I killed him," and it
I was
just
like, I am not talking until
Oh,
she,
and it was
until she gets
beautiful.
that figured out.
That's great.
You know.
It was beautiful. And I remember we finished that scene and we went backstage, and Duffy Epstein and Wasim Nomani, they remember hearing it in the dressing room, and they were like, "Oh my God, the fact that you waited. I don't even think I would have been able to wait." And it was just so good. And we were just hanging, and we were like, "Is he going to talk? What's happening?" And they were just like, even backstage, they were standing up tense. And that's how I felt sitting. And it was very powerful. And it really captured me. And I hope the audience felt what I felt.
Yeah.
Because like he says, we've rehearsed this, and we've done this scene a few times and whatnot, but to find that it's live, and when you are able to find this nuance and do this different thing based on what the audience gives you, or based on what happens, a music cue, a sound cue, a lighting cue, whatever, and it's up to us how we react to it. And that reaction was just spot on. It really heightened the stakes.
So, Bobby, what was going through your mind at that time?
Well, it's like when you're acting on stage, like your brain is always operating on like 5 different levels. And the first thing I thought was, okay, wait, because I'm getting ready to talk about this thing for the first time. And it's actually, in some ways, it's the perfect place where I can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
And so the character is just thinking about what he's about to say, and the actor is just waiting for her. And to be fair, like the woman in question, she got right on it. It was obviously like an accident, and she got it handled as fast as she could.
I think a phone went off the night we saw it. Now that I think about
There
it.
was one going off a little bit, but there was the dude eating the sandwich
oh my
too.
gosh, the guy was just
I
eating.
heard about him.
I heard about him.
I was wondering if you guys noticed it. He was sitting right next to us because we were like, oh, and he moved over. He's like, well, because Phil we had put down a recording thing, and then we were like, we should move it away from him because he's about to eat, and so we moved it, and then he moved because he didn't want to bother anybody, so he moved like over there by himself. Over to like stage left, like far away,
It was
and
the
then
loudest thing I've ever
and he
heard.
was. It was like the first. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
And it's
But
live.
it's live,
It's
you
like
know, man?
opening night. I couldn't get the fucking keys over to the thing
Oh,
for whatever reason.
the matches.
Yeah.
See, when I saw you doing that, I was like, this dude has this shot down. Because the night I saw it, it was like
Oh, yeah,
it was
it was
like you were
perfect.
like hitting him in the head with
Every
it.
other night,
just
every other throw besides opening night was perfect. Like
Yeah.
all week long, every other throw was great.
Because I was a little tense watching that. Because I was like, that could go out of the thing.
And it did.
And then what happened? Yeah.
only on opening night. Only
Oh,
on
yeah,
opening
yeah,
night.
yeah.
Every other
Oh,
night.
yeah.
But
I
it was
was like, opening night
it
has
was
that thing, though.
beautiful because when it happened, the show must go on. And Bobby did this thing where it was just like, okay, I'm gonna reach over this cage and I'm gonna
Yeah.
break this moment for a second. But the audience was with us. They clapped, they cheered, and they were just right back in it. And him
we're
and
right
I
back
just
to it.
got our focus. And it was just like, I mean, as an actor, what do? You know, it's like get back to work and get them back into the story.
Yeah,
and I
it's
felt
Weirder
like
if you don't deal with it.
and I felt like it worked wonderfully.
This is a heavy play. How did we get to this play with Beirut Wedding? Like how did we decide that this was the play that you wanted to do?
This play was first brought to our mine and Jamie's attention by Antonio Senera and Badass Theater when he was still doing a lot of Badass, and he had brought a lot of scripts that he was thinking like these would be possible for Badass to do, and that was one of them. and I asked Jamie to direct it, and Tony was actually in it. Um, and we all, like we both like loved the play. It felt like it just felt, it's one of those plays. It's so funny. Like when we were pitching it to Coho, we kept talking about how it's a play that because they generally like to do newer works, but like how this play felt like it had a new resonance for the era that we're in right now. But when you think about it, like this script is always gonna, I don't know about Gurgis' other stuff. This script is gonna be coming back again and again and again because it just has a lot to say about people and about the way we function as a society, and the underbelly of that society, and I feel like it's not a play that's going to be limited by topicality or lack of topicality. It's always going to be resonant. It's always going to have an impact and meaning for whichever audiences are going to come see it, it was a play that had, a bunch of people of color. Yeah. It was a play that had that was religion, of a sort, like spirituality was at the forefront of the discussion. It's a play that is a discussion. It's a kind of crystallization of a nationwide or societal argument that is going on. Yeah. And it still leaves you with questions. And we're both as artists are people who are more interested in the questions than pretending like we have answers.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way when I was watching it. It felt pretty timely. And so, was there anything in this play that specifically rang true for you, and then you?
Okay, so when I first read this play, I remember loving it, and I was really drawn to it. But the timing of it now, and when Bobby presented this as a possibility for me, I definitely in the last year had been going through questioning my faith. Okay. I was raised Catholic. My mother's devout Catholic. My grandmother, forget about it. She would never be able to see this show. If she heard the things that I said in this show, she would have a heart attack.
What would she take offense with specifically?
If I can curse on this show,
you can definitely curse.
Fuck the Bible. Oh. She would fall out of her seat.
The fact that you would even say that.
Oh my God!
Even as a presentation.
And it's beautiful too, because it's like I don't know the denomination or religious ideals or whatever of anybody that's in this theater when they come see it, but they always gasp when I say that line. When I say "fuck the Bible" to Bobby, I hear, like he just said that, And my grandmother, I'd think of her when I say those words, and she would immediately, I know she would go, Anthony, that's not you, right? Those words they're not true to you, right? So for me, I had a really rough 2018, and so much so that I was definitely feeling, so many things. Like I reread this play, and I was like, oh, I can identify with this guy so much, just like questioning things and like feeling like if God existed, I felt like he turned his back. Or was it me? It was just always this, like, I was going back and forth. And so when I reread it with those feelings, it just sunk deeper in, and I was like, I can't wait to do this show. I can't wait to bring this to life and bring whatever I'm experiencing right now and make it as real as possible and honest, and tell this story, with what's going on in my life. So, it was, I'm very fortunate that it fell in my lap, that, Bobby presented this to me, and I'm grateful for the opportunity because it was at the right time in my life.
Do you feel like through the process of this play, did you end up deepening your spirituality, or did you end up, how did it affect your spirituality?
100%. So that was the thing, and it's so funny. I have a hard time with that, with the first scene. Since questioning my faith, and then all of a sudden, like, I have a very dear friend who's like a brother to me. He's extremely spiritual, so much so that, like, since reconnecting with him and talking to him, he'll send me texts, and he'll send me verses in the Bible that like pertain to my life in that moment that are so profound and powerful that like it's just uplifting. But anyway, where I was going with this was trying hard to not know the Our Father is so hard because I have to very like concentrate so hard because I say it all the time throughout my my nights before I go to bed or whatnot, or like if I'm feeling low, I'll do that now. So my spirituality has definitely heightened since the low that I felt, and this during the show, I mean, it's so important to me, and I'm in a much better place than I was. So it's fun to go back and experience what I was experiencing, and adding the color that I try to add to this piece with what I was feeling. But then at the end of the day, when the show's over, it's like I'm in a much better place. So spiritually, I'm up.
That's good.
It's funny. I am like the heathen in my family.
Yeah.
Both sides of my family. My dad's black, my mom is Mexican, and both sides are both church going. I myself am much more like a lot of the stuff that Angel says is actually the way I feel.
Yeah.
And I tend to feel like religion has been, is responsible for much more harm than it is good. I tend to think it gets co-opted by psychopaths all the time. And I would say, so like, I would say like a lot of my attitudes about religion have been like cemented during this play. But like you were saying, like how does this play reach you? And it's funny, it's like so many ways, because I'm always having, it was like when I specifically decided that I wasn't Christian anymore, something was lost.
Yeah.
And since then, nothing has really taken its place.
Yeah.
And the closest thing is like theater, that I can go to, and it's a pure thing, and I feel like I'm a part of something that is larger than myself. But it's like, especially like at first, it was like, like when Christmas comes, for instance, like there's something missing. Like it used to be magical, and it was this thing that it's this incredible event, and now it's just a holiday.
Yeah.
It's a fun holiday. It's a holiday for the family. But when I stopped being Christian, there is a bit of a hole there that I feel like I've been trying to fill ever since.
Yeah.
But like for these guys, a lot of this play for me is about shame.
Okay.
It's like, it's like when I like look at the mirror at Bobby B, I see like this deeply flawed human being. And these guys in this play are in a situation where they are having to deal with the consequences of those flaws in really like extreme ways. It's like it's like having all the worst parts of yourself like actually come back to like take their piece.
Yeah.
And for Lucius, it's gonna cost him everything, like literally. And it's like I haven't killed anybody. Like Bobby hasn't killed anybody. But I have these flaws in my personality, in my person that cost me. And like and how do you how do you maintain? How do you rise up? How do you move past that? How do you become a whole person? It's like these two guys they are struggling to figure that out.
Yeah.
And actually, like everybody in the play, and we talked about this in rehearsal one time, how everybody in the play is like a rat on a wheel, and they're trying to break their programming. Right. And for all of them, except for Valdez, who nobody likes, for all of them, when they try and break their programming, it costs them something.
Sure. Okay.
And even like D'Amico, when he breaks the programming, it costs him something, which turns out to be a good thing for him. Right.
His job.
But so on that level, it's just a very personal, like, how do we pay for our sins?
Okay. So my thing that I was wondering was, so at the end of the play, this is a spoiler, but at the end of the play, you are found to have like drugs in your system. So how did you reconcile that for your character? Like, is Lucius ultimately either deceiving us or does he fall? What happens there?
It's interesting. Our co-producer, Philip Cuomo, used to. I remember we proposed it to him, and he was like, I feel betrayed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Philip, Lucius is a psychopath.
Yeah.
I mean,
People can hold two things in their head at the same time.
and there are certain people you just don't trust. A psychopath is a person who decides that his life is worth more than other people's just because his ego says that it is in that moment. That is a person whose word you just should not trust. I don't think Lucius is ever lying exactly, but I don't think you should ever believe what he says. And I feel like if he wasn't a charismatic character, like if somebody would just tell you, well, that guy, he's a murderer. He's killed 8 people, just because he just did. You would like know that. You would know that.
Yeah.
It's because you like watch him in this specific situation, and you see him be funny first, you see him be this first, and blah blah blah, and instead you're D'Amico.
Yeah.
Just as a person watching, I feel like you guys don't believe what the psychopath is saying, but just as a rule of thumb.
He killed 8 people.
Yeah, what I mean, and he's a drug addict, and
yeah.
And I had my issues with drugs in the past, and it's just like, if you don't want trouble, don't bring junkies into your house, because there's so many things that can happen, and so many of them are bad, and they involve jail and the hospital and death, or being robbed or whatever, So it's like, so there's like this whole thing. So you have all these red flags about Lucius, and people are like, so do you think he fell at the end? Nah, he's a bad man.
Yeah. Well, and I think that tells you something about how, as an audience member, we receive your character, because I was completely sold that Lucius was a good guy. I was like, this man has been transformed.
I was honestly surprised as well. Yeah. I was like, what did he do? Like, he's not allowed to be around anybody? Like, what did he do? Like, and then it's like, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
that's some rough shit.
And it's interesting because I remember because I was also surprised that he like did drugs, and we talked about it in rehearsal. We're like, how do you do drugs? Like, you're asking him a lot. Like if you're gonna go die, I mean, that's a lot for anybody.
Oh, that's gonna bring him
that's
down,
the thing. Yeah, like I was gonna say that too. Playing on what he's saying about like what his past was, and how even though a person tries to change, a person is still human. And he's going to go die. This is against his will.
Right.
So he has an element to him that is just like most people would probably do. You're afraid to face this end. And even though he is this believer, and for the whole play, he's like getting people to buy in, even Angel, that he is this saved man. For me, when I remember in the moment when I say you're afraid to die because only 2 things are going to happen, either nothing or something bad, there's still that possibility, because you don't know. Who knows,
Yeah.
Until you die, you know nothing. So it's like, I feel like that's just that human element of him, of just, all right, I'm going to go do this. And it resonates when he says, I'm trying to take the Jesus perspective, but it's hard. He's just constantly always struggling. And he's trying to be this righteous person. But at the end, he's Lucius.
So, and do you think for your character, do you think that he converts?
And that's the thing, too. So I feel like for my character, he's constantly battling this, does God exist? Is God real? Because every time he has this point that he tries to make, that God doesn't exist, or the Bible wasn't written by him, or whatnot, he says, if Jesus existed, which I don't believe he did, or I don't even know if, he always goes back when he's talking to Lucius, they hung Jesus from a cross. So he's just always, I believe that he has this religion that is so deep rooted inside of him, And even though he questions it, he desperately wants it to be real.
It's his way
And-
out. You
yeah,
know? Like,
yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things. And so because of that, he always lives with this guilt, but he tries to remove the guilt by trying to convince himself that there is no God. Because once he fully believes that there is, he believes he has so much penance and things to pay for. And I feel Lucius just sees that in him.
Yeah.
And the fact that Angel spends all of his time with this man who just constantly speaks on this is just, it's something that it's inner dialogue that he's already having with himself.
Yeah.
And it's just further justifying this, oh my gosh, this inner turmoil, and I'm in trouble if it is,
Yeah.
you know? And then it's like, how can I be in trouble yet I haven't killed these people the way he says, and how can he be so comfortable saying these things?
Yeah.
And then it's like, so he doesn't feel bad, but I threw this jacket and I'm bad. Like, I'm bad. You know, I feel terrible. And it's like this thing that he just constantly fights with. And it's so interesting. I know growing up of people who have done things that most people would go, wow, that's really petty. That's nothing. But for them, they feel like it's the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And I feel like Angel walks that line of, you know, what is allowed and what's not, and how do I feel about it? And, well, okay, I have to convince myself that there is no God for me to just be able to continue living and doing what I do, you know, regardless of how bad it is.
Yeah.
You know?
There's an interesting thing that kept coming up for me, which is the idea that there's a morality that exists objectively versus, you know, just a good person. You know, like the cop is saying, well, I'm not in here because I haven't killed anybody. But he seems very much like a bad guy, like a bad cop. I don't know. Like, how do you guys personally deal with that strange dynamic between people who seem like they're, you know, they have never done anything bad, but they're bad people, or they give off a really negative energy.
So it's very interesting. I just want to say something real fast before Bobby speaks on this, but like I find it, and I think Stephen Adley just really touches base. He strikes it perfect in this play where Valdez is. I mean, there's so many guards like this that I've even seen in documentaries that are just, you see how they treat these people in this jail or in prison and whatnot. And it can be justified because it's like, well, these people committed terrible crimes, so they shouldn't even be viewed as humans.
Yeah.
So it raises that question of, okay, so is treating anybody bad, you know, even if they've done some crazy shit, do they deserve to be treated bad for the rest of their lives? And I feel like he represents that eye for an eye. And, you know, if this person did all this stuff, hell yeah, he deserves just the worst punishment. We should spit on him and we should kick him, and he's no longer one of us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of that happening right now because, you know, we just had the town hall, and I think Bernie Sanders was the one who said that he feels like convicted felons should be able to vote. And now there's this backlash of people who feel like they shouldn't be able to vote, and you know, like, do you lose that aspect of your civil rights when you become a convicted felon? And so there's this whole dynamic between how much humanity do we allow felons to have?
Well, try a different one. I got into this discussion with somebody about the border.
Yeah, the
You know, and about children being separated from their families, and this person was like, you know what? They try to get in here illegally. That's on them.
Yeah,
Like, you know, and for me, I'm like, I have no idea why some poor people from another country try to come to the richest nation on earth and make a living. I mean, that's, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's on that guy, sure. But how does that absolve us of our behavior? Never mind how how they got here. You know, like, because they made a choice that we don't agree with, or a reckless choice, or whatever choice. Does that mean that we don't have to act like human beings anymore?
Yeah.
Like Valdez, like every character in here raises a question.
Yeah.
Like for Valdez, the fact that he doesn't break laws and he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that makes him a good person.
Yeah.
And I think that's a deliberate choice by Stephen A. Gurgis to have Lucius be the one. So right, because like Lucius is the one says, you think because you didn't do this thing that you're good.
Yeah.
But the thing is, being good is also an act of choice. That's something that you have to do.
Right.
And it's easy to be good in easy situations when everything's coming up roses and life is a bowl of cherries. When an individual or society's goodness is tested, is when it's not so black and white. It's like, how do we treat the worst people? How do we treat the people who have the least? How do we treat the poorest people? Or what I'm saying? Like that's when you find out who you are. Angel says, what good have you ever done?
Yeah.
Which is like, I've prayed for you.
Right.
I mean, and that is something. And does that not count?
Well, it depends if you're on Twitter.
Right. But you know what? Like, I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody on Twitter who doesn't question Twitter. Like, everybody, like, even the most avid, 500,000 followers is like, Twitter's a cesspool. Like, we all know that.
Yeah.
And we still go on there and we'll like just spew like bile and opinions, willy nilly, regardless. And it's interesting. I was talking once to Kevin Jones, and I remember saying to him that on the internet, you see people's real selves. And he said something very interesting. He was like, no, it's not. Because our real self, is like, there's this idea that our real self is this self without fetters. And he goes, that's not who you are truly. Your real self does have to deal with other people and has to exist in a family, among friends, among coworkers, in a society. This is, the internet personality that people have is something entirely different that is not actual.
Well, that's an interesting idea because you could debate that, because you could say, is your real self the person who you are when you're alone, or is it the persona that you put on when you're around other people? Right. And I think the internet may even be a third version.
Because because you're not alone with the internet. You're like trying to talk to everybody,
right?
And it's a performance, and what drawing attention. When you try to say the most outrageous things, people pay attention. Then and the few times when I've like gone off online, I've like looked at it and like, come on, man, like like read it back. I'm like, that's not exactly what I think. I don't even know how to write down what I think. So yeah, sometimes you just get riled up. And
I mean, that's the thing, you are around people, but the consequences are different because the persona is different.
Yeah, exactly.
You
could just totally not look at the reaction comments and be like, oh, said that, and now I'm gone.
Good. I'm good, right?
Yeah, I've gotten into this whole thing where I like once a week or something, I'll just comment or tweet at Donald Trump just because I feel like he needs to know how I feel. And and he'll never read it, but there's just
who knows?
There's a weird dynamic, I think, to being online where you feel like other people need to know how I feel about this thing. Like, you posted that, so I'm going to respond to that because you're asking for my opinion,
right? And it's one of those things where that is the culture changing.
Yeah.
There was I went through a long stretch where it used to annoy me with social media because there's so many things that, when like, say I was like y'all's age, were like private. And now none of that's private anymore. Like people just, talk about it. And I'm always like, why are we talking about, why do people do this? And the thing is, what's happening is the notion of privacy is changing, and it's going to change and adjust and grow to accept social media, and then and then that will be the new baseline for what privacy is.
I actually heard something really interesting about how Generation Y, the youth, view privacy, and they view it totally different than the way that we view it. They live such public lives that they don't have a real point of view on privacy. Sure. And so their view is that everything is public and should be public. And that's why you see all these uprisings and cancel cultures and all these kind of things, because they feel like everything should be aired out. Like, it's all in the public sphere. So Maybe it's something we'll deal with later, but
And sometimes
But maybe not.
or we'll all just
It's funny because like I'll see, like I remember, like I saw this brother. He was like, and now you've seen like 1,000 videos like this since. But I remember the first time I saw one. This guy was like drunk and he couldn't walk on the sidewalk and blah blah blah. And he was falling down and blah blah blah. You know. But the thing is, like, that he didn't post that.
yeah.
Somebody else took the picture and then they posted it on the internet. I'm like, those are your friends, bro. You know, it's like there's all kinds of shit. Like I am so like for myself, and maybe like what, you know, to what you're saying. You know, maybe it would be entirely different if I was raised now.
Yeah.
But when I was in my 20s and whatnot, good God, thank God there were no cell phones around. You know, taking pictures because, whew, you know, it just would be bad.
Yeah.
I sure couldn't run for office.
Do you think you can run for office now?
No, no, that will never work.
How about you, Anthony?
Nah, probably not.
Aren't we supposed to be getting more, liberal people on the ground in the office?
I haven't noticed that.
Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing?
You know, that's ideally, but
If you don't run for office, a Republican's going to take your seat.
Or anybody's gonna take your seat.
Or anyone.
I think we're getting to a point though where things are gonna have to get worse before they get better.
Really?
And there's no guarantee. You know, this is just.
Don't you think that things have already gotten worse, though?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a scary thought to hear that things will get even worse.
I mean, you know, we're in the middle of this 200-year experiment. There is no guarantee that experiment is going to be successful. You know, there's no guarantee that America is going to, you know, and like for me, this has been a shocker of a revelation. This country might not be destined for a whole lot longer.
Is it a shocker?
It was for me. Yeah, sure. Sure. I mean, you know, I was, you know, when I was born, like America was very much the most powerful nation on earth and rich, and we just put a man on the moon.
Yeah.
And you know, there was all this like, you know, and I remember Vietnam happened, and I never even heard that we lost that war when I was a kid. I heard it was a tie. You know, it wasn't until like
It
years.
was a tie.
It wasn't until like years later that I realized that we actually lost.
really lost. Yeah.
You know,
Do you feel like the internet plays a part in that? That the decay or the
I think, you know, I will say I think the internet that plays a truth telling part. There's a lot like I said, like me. Like my dad was a lifer in the military. My granddad was one of the first black paratroopers in the United States Army. Like his platoon or whatever is like famous.
Okay.
My Theo on my mom's side also fought in World War II. We're like Americans.
Yeah.
And there's an extent to where I was always thinking that, you know, the country was not perfect yet, but that the arc of history bends towards justice, kind of thing, you know, and realizing that might all be bullshit, you know, and that there was a huge swath of the population that didn't want that. Like for me, I mean, and part of it was just because I remember when the phrase like, you know, being woke started coming around, you know, and it was about waking up and seeing things for what they were. You know, and for me, you know, and it's still a hard one. I mean, I have, you know, decades of indoctrination. You know, where I was like, shit. I always thought we were gonna get to a place, where you know, just one day like we'd all be accepted and you know all this stuff that I still believe in. You know, only now I feel like more like a fool. Like, and you know, and it's hard to talk about. You know, because you don't feel like people actually believe it. You know, and some of it goes back to like we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men, you know, I assume that means women as well, are created equal and endowed by the Creator with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We didn't all have that, but that was obviously what we were working towards. And now to realize that is actually not the case.
Yeah.
You know, and if the closer we get to like if we get close to that actually happening, somebody is going to try and stop it.
Right.
You know, somebody who considers themselves a law-abiding American.
Yeah, and we're seeing that already with these violent groups. There's just more and more just violence on the streets,
Yeah.
and I mean, people working alone, but also like concerted efforts from people to be violent toward other people because of their beliefs or because of who they are, and because they feel like they're losing power.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And people want to talk about equality until they have to give up power.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what worries me about the direction we're going, is that I was like, well, it's all just, people yelling at each other. But it's like, no, people are killing each other now.
Sure.
Just in the streets. And I mean, that's the thing, is like, that's how civil wars start, is not, necessarily like we think, like, okay, the North and the South are declaring war on each other or whatever. It's like, no, violence just starts popping up because of different things. And like this global shit, like the whole Christchurch thing happened, and then this what just happened in Sri Lanka, they're saying now was because of what happened in Christchurch. And that's a global thing. And this is not just America. It's global. Brexit, it's just division and people,
It's a
shoring
world
up.
convulsing.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
and
true.
and that's the scary thing about memes, because these ideas kind of grow out of the internet or exist on the internet, or now they have this network that they can kind of live on.
Just move a lot faster.
Yeah, they can move, they can grow
And evolve.
Yeah, exactly.
Out of control.
Exactly. And so now we have this meme that is this mass killing meme, and now people are kind of, oh, well, that's something that I can do. Like this, now it exists as an idea, and the more and more we publicize it, and the more and more we promote it, the more and more people. I mean, now we're starting to see people all over the world get the idea, which is basically an American, idea. It's so
Mass shooting. And also Lucius, he's a serial killer.
He's a serial killer.
And that's a
exactly.
thing. That's a thing. Why did he become a serial killer? Probably because he heard you could be a serial killer,
and get notoriety.
Yeah,
be
and get
famous,
notoriety, and
yeah.
also, get out whatever the fuck is going on, It's it's weird.
it's a wild world we live in.
Yeah.
Wild time.
And part of it is also like the internet is bringing everybody closer.
yeah.
So we're like we have like 7 million people now, and all of a sudden it feels like we're piled on top of each other.
It does. It does.
So I think that's part of it too.
And then and everything that happens that's bad in the world, you feel like is happening to you in some way. You hear about so much negative events all over the world, and so after a while it just piles up.
Shouldn't I be terrified?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Great. Let's move into another line of questioning.
Now that we're all depressed.
No, yeah.
This is the episode about the end of the world.
It's the play about the end of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about your just generally being an artist in this town. I'm curious. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about how you got here, where you're coming from, and what your point of view is now that you're here. So yeah, what brought you guys to Portland to pursue art?
For me, I'm from Los Angeles, LA area, and
What part?
Southern California, San Pedro by Long Beach.
San Pedro. I lived in San Pedro.
Nice. A little port town. It's
great
it's where the 110 freeway ends.
Yeah.
It drops you off there. But anyway, I studied at UC Santa Barbara, got a theater degree there, and I never saw myself really leaving Los Angeles. And then I met my wife. She was from here. She moved down there. We met, fell in love, had kids. Then she kind of convinced me that Oregon was a great place to raise children, to have a family, more space. She was right on all fronts. And moved here, and I continued acting here, not knowing at all what the Northwest was like. And I kind of just jumped in, quit my job, jumped in, and started doing commercial work here in Seattle. And then I remember I did the PATA auditions, and I got called in by Olga at Milagro Theater for a show that they were doing, and I got cast in that. And once I got cast in that, it kind of just, things started falling into place. Then Lauren Bloom Hanover saw me in that, and then invited me to audition for Elliot. And then in Elliot, I met Bobby, because we did Water by the Spoonful. I did the trilogy. I was fortunate enough to do the trilogy, the 3 parts. And then I met Bobby, and then Bobby kind of talked to me about doing something else, and then this was the project, and I got involved in Portland Center Stage through Elliot, and so things have just kind of kept happening in whatever show I've been in. But for the most part, it's a lot of commercial work that I do here because this is my main source of income. So theater is what I love, but I definitely need to supplement the income, and the commercial work is where it's at.
How do you like the commercial work out here?
It's funny because I have 3 children, and I have now been labeled the dad. So a lot of the commercials that I get are the dad, and it's great because I'll always have play children on set, and I just gravitate toward children, and I love playing with them and creating with them and getting them to open up, because obviously kids on set, they get really shy when they see so many different strangers and they see these lights and stuff. So I just go right naturally into just making them try to laugh and getting them comfortable, and I develop a dynamic. And I guess since then, it's just always like, all right, let's bring Anthony and the dad, and whatever. So I do a lot of that kind of stuff. But there's always things going on, and it's fun. It's very easy, and the crew is. I mean, people here are so nice and down to earth, and there's no prima donnas or anything. And so for that, I love the Northwest for that, because Los Angeles was very different, very cutthroat, and it's crazy. It's a good place to be a person of color here. You know what I mean? There's not as many people. And so I go in as ethnically ambiguous, and I fit a lot of different roles. And I guess I get a lot of work that way. So.
It's funny. When I first moved here to do a play, I lived in Seattle, and I moved here to do Raising the Sun at Artist Rep, and I was on probation in Seattle, but I had a really lackadaisical parole officer, so I would go or not go. Like a lot of times I would go and she wouldn't show up. I would go and I'd wait for an hour. So I just thought she didn't care. Yeah. And so I was doing Raisin, and I got a letter saying, you have been violated, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, okay, well, I can't go back to Seattle. And so I didn't, and
haven't been since. Can't go back there.
Eventually it went off the books. Eventually, I was like, you know what, you should really get that taken care of. And I called them, and they were like, no, we can't find any more record of you. But
that was like my library card. It's a lot more scary.
That was how I found out. I wound up first getting stuck here. I also, I met my partner Jamie, the director of Jesus Off the A Train and co-artistic director of Beirut Wedding. And both of us, I think, always and there were times when we talked about it a lot, talked about leaving, but we keep working, in one capacity or another. And it's funny. It's like when Anthony was like, it's a good place to be a person of color, and I don't really think of Portland that way, but when I think about it, but the fact is, I have played, Asagai and Raising the Sun and Ogun and the Brother Sister Plays and Booth and Top Dog Underdog and this and there are all these fabulous roles that I've gotten to play, and part of that is because I live in this town. Mm-hmm. So it's like as long as the work keeps coming, and now Jamie and I are doing this thing. Where we're the place where we have the most cachet, and where people would be willing to invest in these two artists is here. It's all people who we want to work with. Yeah, and we know a lot more about that, and a lot more of what's going on here in this town. And I mean, I would love to get more into the commercial and television business myself, but I don't have that Hollywood smile. I'm trying to get some momentum, man. You know, because God, I did one TV gig and it paid for like 2 weeks of theater work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks of it was like 4 hours.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
on. You know.
Yeah. So how do you think being in Portland has changed the way that you create? Has it affected in any way?
I think the dearth of artists of color, which is actually changing now.
Yeah.
There are a lot more than there used to be. Has seriously altered, like the stuff I would have done. But it's funny. It's like what happened. Like when I moved to Seattle, I fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. Because it's green, and I loved camping and like hiking and stuff like that. And I would say like that's what keeps me, you know. Jamie and I also work with Sojourn, and right now we're doing a show that's being built over in Chicago. And Chicago is always like this super exciting city, and there's a lot of theater there, and there's a lot more black people there. But it's all concrete.
Yeah.
It's like it's all concrete and steel and glass. You're like, and the water tastes funny. You're like, oh.
It's that fluoride.
Yeah, exactly.
There ain't no fluoride here.
And I'm just like, I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
I mean, as a person from the Midwest, I can say that the water tastes funny.
But I guess I feel like there are some times when you feel like you have limitations here because you don't have, or we didn't like we didn't have like the pool of a variety of like theater artists of color, with their different ideas and their and the different things that they want to do and their different aesthetic and sensibilities,
Right.
like and this gets you get beat over the head with it when you go like any place else.
Yeah.
Like when I first came here, I didn't know per se that it was the whitest country, the whitest city in America. Right. And I remember I was living here and I did a gig in Cleveland.
Hey.
And it's like black people, it's like whoa, it's like I forgot.
We got them.
Okay. It was, you're like, oh wow, that's right. The rest of the country does not look like Portland.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm from Cleveland. Phil's from Akron. we
Oh,
know about it. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I understand that idea that there are so few of us compared to many other cities. But see, I view that as an opportunity in the sense of, look, you have all these amazing ideas and you have to create. And that's why I think Beirut Wedding, this production company just has so much going for it. And when you do something like this, and then it's like, it's only going to gain notoriety. And it's like, what does Bobby and Jamie have lined up next? Yeah. And you're just going to build that following to be able to continuously create and work with the people that you want to work with, that you've, the network of actors and talented people that you've worked with throughout your whole career here. And you're just going to open that up. And you're going to be responsible for that. Do you know what I mean? So that's powerful. That's amazing. That's something exciting to look forward to.
I mean, that's the whole idea. That's why World is in the full titles, like the Beirut Wedding World Theater Project. Yeah. We're hoping to go to other places and maybe even bring other places here.
Exactly.
How did you come up with that name? I've always been curious.
Like years and years and years ago, which you start to say more and more as you get older. I saw in a magazine of great photographs, a photograph of a man and a woman who had just gotten married and they were still in their full wedding regalia, and they were tiptoeing through the streets of Beirut, Lebanon, after it had been bombed out, and it was during the religious civil war in the early '80s. Yeah. And the caption of the photo said that the woman was Muslim and the man was Christian. And I just remember looking at that picture and going like, man, that is what I would love to say with my theater company. When Jamie and I decided to do this theater company together, and we were talking about this, and she loved that idea, and we were looking up the photograph, instead of the photograph, what we came across was this article talking about how during that Civil War, there was a movement by some of the young people to deliberately marry across religious lines in order to protest the war. You know, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's
That's revolutionary.
and it was this thing where it was like, God, people are so like reprehensible and and unbearable so often, but not all the time, and sometimes like in when we're in the pit is when we shine,
Yeah.
and but it's like and so like we like both really just like really hope like the theater company is about those times when beauty comes out in the midst of like the ugliness, but there's also like so many other things, and about a lot of the stuff that we've talked about this evening, about religion, about spirituality, about good and evil and what those even are, and about love, so that is where that name came from. Yeah.
Let's move to a section that we call headlines. So, we scour the internet and various newspapers
You better ask Anthony.
for clickbait headlines, and we just want to get your opinions on some of these topics. First headline from W24.com. My mother wants me to pay her back for raising me. How do you feel about paying back your parents for raising you?
And when you say that, do you mean like how do I feel about literally paying them money, or do you mean pay back based on how you are in society and how, like,
I believe that this has a dollar amount.
dollar amount?
Itemized.
It's interesting, It's like
Repayment.
now that I'm a father of 3, raising them to be strong individuals, independent, allowing them to express themselves and be unique, be them, who they're gonna be. I scoff at it, at the idea of you made the decision to bring these children into the world. I don't believe they owe you anything.
That's a good answer.
You know what I mean?
You
They
owe
owe
them
you
a lot.
nothing.
Yeah.
You are there to help them and guide them to be the best individual that they can be, but they in turn owe nothing.
I think I can agree with that. I mean, if I were in a different situation, if I were getting ready to retire and I had some wealthy kids, I think
If they're not pumping enough already, be like,
I might send them an
"Hello."
invoice. Who owns your fingerprint? Who owns your fingerprint?
Wow. I mean, because I guess I don't.
Does anybody have
You gotta
the
think
Apple?
about who's got it.
Who's got the Apple?
Yeah.
phone?
Who has it?
I
Yeah.
still mine. I still. It's like when I first got it. It was my first smartphone, and I had got it like 2 years ago, and it's falling apart now. But it's like they still want to do the touch, and I'm like, no, you can't have it. But it's like Phil was like, dude, they have it already because you've been
Yeah.
touching it.
that's what I was gonna say.
They just want to know if you want to use it.
if anybody nowadays, if anybody has it, everybody has it, and
that's right.
and mine was got a long time ago.
I actually have the new one now where it's the face scanner.
Right.
And I mean, I'll just get, so you can take
See, I don't even know what you guys are
need
talking
from-
about.
You look at the phone.
The
you
phone,
look at
the
the phone,
iPhone
and then
10,
it opens.
yeah, if you look at
It
knows
recognizes
your-
you. Actually, I like that because now I feel like my phone is my buddy. So when I'm like, hey, do you?
See, that's
I-
what they
I don't
want you
wanna
to
feel
think.
that way, Phil.
That's what they want
No.
you to think.
Yeah.
See, I already feel like that my phone is my vampire that is like sucking the blood out. Like I can't live without it now.
Well, I mean, it is your vampire.
But it's like when I like leave it at home, you're like, oh my god, the world's gone silent.
There was when I
I
first
don't
bought
exist.
when I first bought my phone. I actually took it on a date. We went to go see the new Deadpool movie.
I picked you up
Sat
from
side
that.
by side.
I remember that.
It was beautiful.
You went by yourself and then asked me to pick you up. I remember.
Yeah,
It was
it was,
interesting.
yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean,
I love it.
there was there've been a couple times when I fell asleep next to my phone, because I was like listening to a book or something, and it's just like so embarrassing. You're like, nah, I need to fix
You
this.
turn
I
over
do
in the
this-
morning. You say, "I love you."
Right. That's the first thing you see, the first thing you talk to.
I started working in this factory recently, And I've done a lot of like production jobs before, and they always let you wear headphones. And this one, they haven't been letting me wear headphones, and it's been driving me insane, like absolutely crazy. And lately, they've been like giving me some jobs. They're like, it's okay if you listen to something. I'm like, thank God, because I cannot sit there with my thoughts. I was quality control checking tea bags coming off a tea bag machine for like 8 hours, 3 days in a row. Let me tell you about that.
Man.
Because they were like, oh, we were not gonna be doing this. Oh, just today, and it's like, with nothing, just the machine.
Yeah.
I don't know what people did
I
back
am
in the
so
day,
Yeah.
because
bad.
I podcasts all the time in my ears.
There
I
you
am
go.
so bad though. It's like it's hard for me to shop for groceries, just like shop for groceries
Mm-hmm.
without listening to something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, like I have to like will myself. You're just gonna walk around and be like you used to do.
Yeah, I can't do anything. Yeah,
You used to not listen to a book all the time, bro.
Right.
You can do it.
and it's like I can't do it without it. But then I'll find myself just like walking down the aisles of Winco, just kind of like walking around, be like, "Fuck, I need to put something in the basket." Like, like listening to it.
You know, or it's like what you just said. Like, how did people used to wait? Like, I ask myself that now, and I was around back then.
Yeah.
Like, how did we used to wait in line
Or
at the
meet
DMV?
up.
Oh my God.
You know,
it must have been brutal.
the DMV's just like, and I remember I used to take a book sometimes.
That's right. That's
But
all you can do is you can
or
just
like
take a book.
God, the lines are like. But nowadays you're like,
Yeah.
you just hook it up.
It's like, sweet, I get to sit with my phone for the next 45 minutes. Sick, I'm going to the DMV.
You know,
Let's see what this Twitter cesspool is all about.
I have Marvel Unlimited on my phone.
Oh,
so
there you go. Now
so
you
I'm
know.
I'm like reading
Bobby's
comic books.
always-
That's
Yeah.
what's
Nice.
up.
I just got the DC Universe.
See, so you're
app,
still
and it's
doing
been
it,
pretty
though.
Nice.
You figured out a way to
you're
take the comic
fired.
book still.
I'm fired.
Marvel.
He's wearing an X-Men shirt, just so everybody knows. Okay, in honor of this past weekend being 420, here's a headline. I once quit weed for a relationship. Here's why I'll never do that again. This is the Portland Mercury.
Yeah, that's easy because weed's gonna be with her. If your person needs you to give up something like that,
Yeah.
then they're not your person.
They're
And
not the right person.
They're not the right.
and also they're making you change. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You change if you want to change.
Right.
But don't change for someone. If that was something that you wanted to change to begin with, then that's different.
Like Jamie doesn't smoke or drink. She has never asked me not to do either.
Yeah.
And that's how you knew she was the one. Because you're like, I'm about to be hot.
Not at first. At first, like, wow, this is never gonna work.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
But she just doesn't deal.
Yeah.
She's like, it's not,
That's great.
she's like, don't drive drunk, okay? Bobby, can I have your keys? I'm like, okay.
Sweet, you're
Yeah.
not drinking.
That's
amazing.
love, man.
That's
That's
real
unconditional love.
That's great. I mean, I think that when we all have Teslas, we'll all be okay to do whatever we need to do. Here's another one. How much weed can $5 get you right now, Portland Mercury?
You can get an eighth for $5.
An eighth?
Yeah, you can get an
Is
eighth
that
at
the
several
best you've
places.
seen?
That's the best I've seen at Floyd's, and now New Amsterdam has a billboard that says 4x8 for 20.
Floyd's the coffee place?
No, Floyd's Fine
dispensary.
Cannabis. We're already plugging. Pay us money, Floyd's Cannabis. I go there all the
Floyd's
time
Cannabis.
because they just got
Give me the
$5
hookup.
rates all the way up. And it's just like,
Wow.
I mean, not the best weed, but
Yeah.
not the worst weed either. I'll tell you, I've smoked way worse weed.
$5.
I mean,
$5
I think
for an
this is
eighth.
more of a philosophical question, which is think about. I mean, back in the day.
Yeah, that's what I was
Copping.
gonna say.
In Ohio, when we were growing up, $50 an eighth.
Yeah, that's
Or
that's,
60.
That's
Or
what I was
if
gonna
you were
say.
talking
if you
to the
wanted any-
wrong
if you-
person.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, $5.
Did you guys know each other in Ohio?
When we went to college.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we went to college together.
No. Oh, last one. Lillard hits epic game winner to silence Thunder.
Oh my gosh, I replayed
Did you?
that. so many
It's
times.
so funny. We just had this huge discussion about it in the dressing room.
Yeah.
What did you say?
I didn't even get to watch the game. I was ESPNing it on my phone, just the app, but not the actual game.
Yeah.
I just watched the score
Yeah.
change, and I was just doing the commentary to myself, like 1 minute left. All right. And then when I saw that the score was tied and the Blazers had the ball, all I was thinking in my head, because it doesn't tell me anything, who has the ball or anything,
Right.
Yeah.
other than the Blazers have the ball, and I was like, Lillard, I know you have that ball. Just don't give the ball back. Just worst case scenario, you're going in overtime.
Right.
And then it's so funny because the way the app works is it went final first, and
Yeah.
the score stayed 115, and I was like, oh, so did he miss? What happened? There was 17 seconds. Like, what happened? And then I feel like I waited 20 seconds, and all of a sudden just went 118. I went, oh, I have no idea, but whoa. I was just going nuts. And, and then it gave me the description. Lillard hits a 37-foot
Yeah.
three.
Yeah, you just love that.
And
I
then
mean,
I just,
who does that?
Yeah.
Lillard.
oh,
You know,
it was-
we were talking about Paul George belly aching afterwards about how it was a bad shot.
Not for him.
And we were like, I mean, he obviously set the dude up on purpose.
Yeah.
And he was like, I'm going to shoot this from here.
And it's not like
In your
he hasn't,
face.
and it's not like he hasn't shot that shot before,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So it's like, stats.
Worst
they,
case, you tie.
And
Yeah,
I'll
you
see
know,
him
exactly.
take that
And if
shot.
he-
He's like falling. He's like, it's the most
and if he
awkward shot.
plans that and he hits it, Nathan but nylon in your face,
Just like in his mind,
just
like,
give it up.
Yeah,
It's
just
okay.
say it was a
Hey,
tough
I
shot and he
mean-
made it on me, and I couldn't have defended it any better. and
Yeah,
that's it.
I
We
remember
lost.
back in the day, I gained so much respect for David Robinson because the reporters were skewering him for getting eaten up by Hakeem Olajuwon.
Okay.
And he was like, I mean, I feel like if you look at the tape, I was there. My defense is what it should be. I'm where I'm supposed to be. He's just great. I'm like, way to go, man.
Yeah,
Just
you gave
give it up.
credit.
Just
Yeah, you
give it
gave
up.
credit to the other
Because
person
sometimes
outplayed.
that dude is just a stud. And, Dame's like that, man.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh,
Yeah.
he carried that game. He put the team on his back.
Yeah.
It was the whole series, unbelievable.
I just gotta say, I'm glad that I'm in Portland because coming from Cleveland, it was like I was able to be a Cleveland fan because LeBron was awesome.
Right.
And I'm old school LeBron stan.
Yeah.
But like, he
He's
left.
from Akron, right?
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
from Akron. It's from Phil's hometown. But like, yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of those first seasons and stuff, and then now, he's gone again
Yeah.
down to the Lakers. But
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I'm in Portland.
Yeah.
I can like fully be a Trailblazers fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is a good time for it to happen. Like a little advantageous, but it's like I can pay attention to basketball here now.
Oh, yeah.
Took me a little while, but I got there.
We were coming from here last night, and when the game ended, we were riding by the Broadway Bridge, and everybody from the Moda Center was walking across.
Wow.
We're like, what happened?
And we were like, "What happened?" And we just saw like,
It was
and
like,
there was
"Yeah!"
one guy in particular who was just like, "Yes."
Yeah.
And we're like,
Oh my god.
So,
Incredible.
Great. Let's do some plugs. Plugs.
Bobby Bermea, what you got going on?
Oh, well, this is Beirut Wedding's second full production. It's me and Jamie doing our thing. We have a couple big projects like that are coming down the pike, but it's gonna be like in the next year or two. But they're gonna be building in stages.
Yeah.
One is called SASBAC, the Festival of Angry Women. It's going to be at a park. It's going to feature an adaptation of a Greek tragedy or two. It's also going to feature other female-forward artists, booths, food, whatever. We're trying to make it like a festival
Okay.
kind of thing that kind of culminates in this production. So just like keep an eye out for that. If you see Sass back, that's us.
Okay.
And then we're doing, we have a piece of mind called Warrior Soul, the history of the Knott Street Boxing Club. And that's a more episodic theatrical piece that follows the journey of Africans across the Middle Passage down through the South and up to Oregon.
Wow.
Kind of interspersed with this real history of this boxing club that we had here in Portland in the 50s, 60s, and 70s that actually gained some national renown in the amateur circles, and a lot of them are in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame now. And we want to do like with that, we want to do stuff like there's a parallel that we want to make, for instance, like between what it might have sounded like when you had a black man on an auction block or the black man standing in the corner of the ring. Here he is, 5'8", 125 pounds, blah blah blah, and draw a straight line from that to that, or from traditional West African dance. We're thinking like from Ghana to the movement that the boxer takes in the ring. But these are like big projects that are gonna be happening in stages, and we'll definitely like be letting you guys know. about them. And then we have a couple of smaller projects also. But these are the things that we're trying to make happen.
Great. Clifton?
That's cool. Yeah. This weekend with Fused Creative PDX, I'm doing my first live video installation. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's at Space Architecture Firm on Northwest 18th. And so, yeah, we're kind of taking over this large space, and I'll have a video installation in the beginning. Doors are at like 6 o'clock, 6 to 9 p.m. So you can interact with the art, talk to some cool artists beforehand, and then there's a really eclectic performance thing lined up with music and spoken word and comedy, and I'm really stoked. Meg Nana, she's really great. She does...
I know Meg.
Yeah, you know Meg, yeah. So, yeah, she got this whole thing together. She started talking to people, and she's in such a good position to put something together because she's this great photographer who's worked for I think the Mercury and just been around town and knows so many different people. So they put together a really
neat
cool
person.
Yeah, they put together a really cool thing. Really excited to be a part of it, and she's really given me a lot of freedom to create something that I've been wanting to make for a while. So yeah.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Great. We got Diary of a Spider, a Worm, and a Fly, presented by Oregon Children's Theater at the Newmark, and that's going to open on May 4th. You can still catch How to Keep an Alien, presented by Corb Theater at New Expressive Works. Be on the lookout for the Moon Talk podcast.
Moon Talk
For
podcast.
all those cryptocurrency people out there. That's
how we got started.
Yeah, that's where we came from. I'd also like to shout out More, who is coming to Holocene on May 2nd. And he's just a dope artist. I like him a lot. Go check him out. And lastly, Burger Week. For all you guys who are Portland heads, Burger Week is coming up. Put it on your calendars, April 29th through May 5th at participating locations.
Completely missed Pizza Week somehow. I feel awful about it because I usually celebrate, but I'll have to get it on Burger Week.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? What I would like to plug. That's not my work, or our work. Because I see what you mean now. Is the Theater Vertigo show, A Dark Sky Full of Stars, has a bunch of friends in it, and it's directed by Josie Seed, and Dre's in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing good things about that too.
Right.
Looks interesting.
Yeah.
It runs when our show runs, right?
Yeah,
Throughout the
yeah,
whole-
we're not. We actually might get to see that one because they're going
a Wednesday or something?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
They're going to do it.
Yeah, we
industry
should.
night.
Are they running right now?
Yes, I
Yes,
think
yeah.
so.
They're
I think so.
running.
Yeah. Mamie's got Beirut coming up.
I'm sorry.
There's a play called Beirut.
Yes.
Who's doing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mamie's in that is
And Murray.
Murray, right? Yeah.
Cool.
That should be good. It's a great play for actors, and they're two pretty strong actors. I did that play when I was like 20. And
Yeah. I was very confused when that popped up. I was like, Beirut wedding. Am I getting something wrong here? And then I figured it out, but
completely unrelated. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you
Right
guys
on.
for coming.
Yeah,
Hey,
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Had a
Seriously,
blast.
that was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.